Hello and welcome to the People's View. Today we have Sean Rogers. Sean, you're running for Condiment at Large, right?
Yep, Alderman at Large. Here in Nashua, yep.
And what made you go after that office?
Well, I kind of think in my own personal view that, politics, especially municipal politics, just in the city, should be as boring as possible. They should be talking about what stop signs need to get placed where and what stop signs need to come out. And what I haven't been seeing is a lot of that. It seems to be they like to embroil themselves in controversial things, and I really don't feel super comfortable with that. I don't like that. And it really speaks to the division in our country where all the things going on in the, in the Capitol in Washington, D.C. are sort of coming back down even just to the city level, and I'm sure we've probably all lost friends or had some sort of change in relationship with the tides of politics, but I don't really like it. I think, municipal politics should simply be simple, and we should stay out of, the current trends of national stuff, and
pay attention to the business of the day.
Yeah, exactly. Like the simple things: fix the potholes. Make the traffic go good. Those sorts of things. Nothing overly complicated. And when I go to the Board of Alderman meetings, it seems like most of the people on there just can't seem to help themselves but just talk about like the most controversial stuff all the time.
Oh, really? Like maybe arguing about back and forth. Is that
what's that?
Arguing about things back and forth?
Yeah, and they seem pretty polarized, and most of them are on one side of the debate. I don't want to get into all exactly what they're
your attendance at the aldermanic meeting is something you don't care for. They should change it a bit.
Yeah, it's got quite a few problems in my opinion. I think the biggest problem is just the polarization. I just don't like that. I think we should kind of get away from that, and we shouldn't make the mistake of falling into the current trends and just kind of try to keep our city as nice as possible. So this is the nicest city I've ever lived in. I'd rather just keep it that way if possible and sort of go from there,
Well, how long have you been watching the meetings?
The meetings, I started doing it, I forget when it was, like late 2021, early 2022, I started to get, I was aware that there were problems because the Board of Aldermen passed the mask mandate during the pandemic, and I didn't think, and I still don't think, that they had any moral right to do so. They certainly didn't have any legal authority to do so. And then practically speaking, I happen to be a doctor, and even before I finished my residency, the final step in becoming a doctor, I read papers that masks don't help in, like, just plain old surgical masks don't help in a lot of situations. That being one of them, the ORs being another, believe it or not. We still do it, but it just doesn't help. And they passed that, and I don't think that they had any practical authority to do it. It's just kind of a emotional decision, I felt like, on their part, and I felt like a lot of dissenting voices were shut down, including mine. I had a lady actually ram me with her shopping cart in the grocery store because I wasn't wearing one, because I knew it didn't do anything, and it was kind of made me open my eyes and realize that maybe the people in charge are not running the show as well as I would have liked, because I just feel like, we need to listen to more voices.
Right.
And there's a lot of back and forth about this. It's still obviously very controversial. Maybe people get angry that I said it, but we really just need to listen to people, because we are much, much wiser when we can listen to all the disagreeing voices. That's really the fastest way to get the truth, is by hearing the one guy who has opinion A and the guy who has opinion Z, and then working our way to the middle, is what I feel like.
So you're a doctor in what?
Oh, just internal medicine. So like a general doctor, and I work as a hospitalist at Southern and at St. Joe's, both both the local hospitals. Yeah.
I see. And you'd like to add the scientific approach to things and
As
solving?
much as I can. We're all sort of trained at, reading studies to whatever degree, but at the end of the day, I'm just kind of a simple country doctor, so I don't claim to have any special authority there, but I am familiar with a lot of the arguments and some of the papers that they're basing their
But that
decisions
process
on.
is something that you work your thoughts through when you think.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to hear people's evidence,
Right.
because once you have an interesting or compelling piece of evidence that you can share with everyone, your decisions can change, and they can change radically sometimes. And so that's why we need to listen to people as much as possible.
So what do you see with Nashua as far as what can be corrected in the conversation?
The most important thing is truly just making sure everybody feels heard, because even the people who you write off as crazy, even the people who are just moderate of one party or the other, they all have valuable perspectives. I was raised in I disagree with my parents a lot on politics, but they really make great points sometimes. And so if you can just check yourself and just make sure that that it doesn't matter who wins the argument, it just matters that you come to the best conclusion possible and make the best decision you can given the information. I think that has the power to transform a place, or to, if it's already prosperous, to keep it that way.
I say, did you listen to the debate that was held?
I was working, so I did my best. I made it most of the way through, but
Okay.
I didn't catch a lot of the closing stuff, and I still haven't gone back.
But do you think that process helped?
Yeah, I think it's good to hear. I think debates are neat. They don't, obviously every forum is limited. I guess the problem I have is that the only problem with that type of forum is that politicians in general are pretty good talkers, and they'll be able to talk and make anything sound good. And so if you're not familiar with things and you're not familiar with biases, then you might just think, well, I have no idea what's going on. And I actually find listening to the aggregate, listening to people of all kinds of different opinions to be the most valuable thing. It really is. And you can really start to put together an adequate picture. There's actually this book, what is it called? It's called The Wisdom of the Crowd, where he goes over that, where you wouldn't think that a group of random people could come to such a great decision, but they can. Like the people in, he had lots of examples, but people can guess the weight of a cow far better as a group, where you average the scores out. People actually, based on stock market trends, people were actually able to discover which part of the Challenger blew up before Richard Feynman figured it out on the Challenger Commission. And so it's really amazing the power of just listening to people and just taking the aggregate, I think.
Well, listening to what you were able to hear on the debate, did you pick out any particular issue that sort of struck home?
Well, let me think back. So I apologize, because a lot of it's half remembered, because I'm on the phone, like talking to other docs.
This is the first office you ran for?
Oh yeah. I'm totally brand new, completely
new,
as green as the green screen, as nobody can see here. Yeah, but I mean, they did bring up a lot of issues. They brought up the traffic issues, the business issues, and there are a lot of things that require a lot of thought and deep consideration. And I think it's valuable to put everybody's perspective into it, because there's not exactly one right way to run a government, whether it's a city or a state or the federal government. There's going to be some degree of governmental of power, of interference, depending upon how you look at it, that can do good or it can do harm, and it's about finding that perfect balance there.
One of the issues along that line that I remember was transparency. And how do you feel about that?
Oh, well, even a liar will tell you that it's the most important thing. But I do sincerely believe that it's the most important thing. I mean, how are you going to run a country where nobody believes what you have to say? Like, if you're just keeping everything behind closed doors. But even certain things like, being, quote unquote transparent, but at the same time, hiding behind, tons and tons of documents that are just opaque, rather than just trying to explain things in either, a document, or just even better yet, face to face, with words, trying to explain those things, in the simplest English you possibly can manage. I think that is extremely important, and making sure that, the words add up, but then also that the fruits of your labor match those words, So that's what I think.
The other thing I was thinking about was the budget too. That's obviously a concern, because it tells you what you're going to be paying in taxes.
It does. And I've been talking to different people to get their feel about how things, because I've got my own perspectives, but I'm always a little bit suspicious of government and raised taxes and things like that. But it does seem like a lot of people that I talk to are also concerned about that. And, it's very easy to fall into the trap that people frequently do, where they think that, if they're just able to push through this, glamour project or, dream project, that things will get better. Like, I understand the Art Center was, according to a lot of people, was a big boondoggle and was really much more expensive than it should have been, and things like that can just put a city back into debt. But at the same time, whenever you invest something, whenever you put money into something, it should be an investment in that, in the city. And will that end up just being a recurring, cost that sort of is one more thing to drag us into permanent debt? And then once you're in debt, during good times, debt is no problem, but during bad times, debt is obviously crushing. So you really got to find that balance between, I prefer, everything to be in the black, as in everything to be, the budget to actually have a surplus, but a lot of people like to run the city red, so.
Well, what have you found out in your communication with the voters? I mean, have you knocked on doors, or have you talked to people in groups or something like that?
That's where I got the feeling that they were pretty dissatisfied with it. A lot of people don't, a lot of municipal politics are, thankfully a little bit on the boring side, and even in these times, and so a lot of people don't have an opinion on it, which is fine. I didn't until recently either. But a lot of people, if they have anything to say, it's kind of, at least the ones that I've interacted with, it seems to be a little bit negative. And a lot of times it's the taxes going up, a lot of times it's the spending going up, a lot of times it's the partisanship. Several people have explained that as well. So those are the main things. Like, I'm more of a fiscal conservative type, meaning I want to make sure that your money and my money too, is as well spent as possible, that we take care of everything that needs to be taken care of first before we go on and do some risky things. The proposal about the trains is, about the train station, sounds like it could be a huge problem and something that drags people into debt, because trains are, very expensive. They require a lot of infrastructure. Most places that have had new train stations built that I've heard of are deeply in debt, and that's from California to China, where they're trying things are, and so you have to be really careful before launching into those type of projects, I think, and you have to make sure that you're doing the basics first, and you're doing
well. Do you think that'll come back as an issue again? Because Manchester is saying that's a good thing to do for the state.
It could be. It might come back. But I think, I grew up in a town in Montana that was, it's only a town there because of the railroads, and the railroads are much less important now, and they're much less important for a reason, because we have cheaper, more convenient alternatives in forms of vehicles. So I think it could certainly help a minority of people. I think for a lot of us, driving a car will probably be as cheap and as easy, like, because you have to measure the cost in both money.
Right.
It's not just the ticket, it's also your taxes, and it's also your time. Because waiting on a train sometimes takes forever. And so if you're going to do anything about public transport, I mean, maybe expand the busing services. My mom and dad take the bus to the airport all the time from, from just, over here. So I'd have to look more into it, but unless it was really convincing, I would be skeptical.
Because I know I was on the committee that the mayor had started, and the aldermen were of different views, and there was never really good communication between the two. So it may come up for you if you get the election. And,
it may, and I will encourage them to make the best cases they have, and more importantly, to hear from the citizenry and see what they have to say. Because none of us are the end-all be-all. None of us have all the answers, and it's really a communal effort, I think.
Well, unfortunately, there was a review by the state and everything, and a political issue came up, and they canceled the balanced presentation of all the way that the Department of Public Works, had analyzed the whole thing, how it would be financed. So we don't know what their proposal is now as a result
that sounds
of that.
A little bit, that turns some alarm bells on in my head when things like that get canceled. They get canceled for a reason.
But that's a political thing.
Yeah, exactly.
You're right. One of the reasons I wanted to be on is I wanted to see that what possibilities were there, because it's not only passenger, it's freight and everything. And anyway, let's get back to your communications with the people.
Yeah.
Do you have anything that you've planned as far as getting out literature or signs, or how you going to have meetings?
So I'm learning things as I go along here, but one of the things that I've learned is that for smaller elections, the most important thing you can do is door-to-door campaigning, and so that's what I'll be doing. I've also set up, done all the regular things, set up a website, gotten some literature, going getting signs out there, but really just person-to-person, face-to-face interaction is the most effective, is my understanding. And I can see why, because people want to know. They don't just want a total stranger who is now has some degree of power over them. They want to know that person's trustworthy, So, but at the same time, I don't want to be some fake, phony glad-hander who's always like got a smile and it's always got that. I don't want to be unctuous or smarmy or anything. I just want to be as genuine as possible, and I can already see where just the system in general might advantage someone who is who's got that sort of deceptiveness about them, unfortunately.
Well, taking on as an at-large alderman takes on the whole city.
It does.
You start right with the big...
I know, there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people. So I wish I could meet everybody, but obviously it's hard to do.
Are you doing it with any of internet type of communication?
Yeah. So I've set up my website and linked to whatever small things I've had in public, and then I'll be more active on social media here in the next week or two, and then we'll go from there.
So should they look at any communication with you by internet?
Yeah, so for right now I don't have the social media set up, but I will, and they can find it on my website, which is Sean Rogers 4, like the number 4, nh.us. So Sean Rogers 4nh.us.
So that will be able to contact you.
Yeah, they can email me, and they can see all the social media things, and I'll be happy to give them a call back or email, anything they want. So,
have you live in Ward 1, which is one of the bigger wards in town, and has a reputation for a lot of a high voting percentage.
Oh, that's good.
So, have you? How long have you lived there?
We first moved in because it was like when we moved in, it was because we were living in a hotel for a while because like the housing market was terrible.
Yeah.
But we moved into our current house in I think it was like the beginning of March 2022. I think, yeah, if I recall. And it's been a very nice neighborhood. I wish my street had sidewalks, but it's fantastic. People are real nice. I just wish there were more trick-or-treaters at Halloween. That was one thing that I was disappointed
too much
by.
candy left over?
Oh, I had tons of candy left over. There's barely anybody. It was sad. Actually, I went to the school board to tell them, like, hey, listen, we got to get kids out and do trick-or-treating, otherwise you're going to lose Halloween. And if New England is good at anything, it is Halloween. It is, it's such a fantastic season. All the, creepy ghost stories of America come from New England. It's perfect. It's perfect. We can't let it go. So...
Well, there's a lot of things that you'll be learning as you go through this process.
Every day. Every
I
day.
think, some of the people, depending on what your area is that you see you want to talk about, are available to help you out.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that there are a number of agencies that have promotions for their people who are running for an office, whether it's the alderman or the education or something else.
I welcome any help, and I've already found a few people who are really my champions, and they're like going and talking to people for me, and it's so great.
Oh, that's good. So you have a couple people on the team. Which is good.
Yeah, it's really nice. It's really nice of them. So
you should have at least one person every ward. If you can find that out.
That is a great suggestion. I will do that.
Yeah, so. And it's because you are getting up against the more experienced and popular people, because usually you become an alderman for a 2-year term, and if you have a couple of 2-year terms, then you go to at large. I think your competition is going to be like that.
Yeah, well, we'll see how it goes.
You got to learn about your competition too, and really, if you're going to really strike home, and you don't like something that they're doing, you ought to tell them how you would do it. You got to get to your people, your voters, and tell them that. And maybe, while the preference is personal talking, but you're going to have to send out mailers just to be able to cover everybody more.
Absolutely.
So do you have any other ideas that you want to talk about?
Well, I just, I'm just kind of... tired of the way politics are going.
Yeah.
I really am. And I just want people to have a little bit more faith, a little more security that, that their government isn't acting against them in some way. I really don't want to live in a country like that, and and I want to see us, grow and thrive and prosper. And I don't want us to live that way, and I especially don't want to see Nashua decline in any way, because Detroit was once a great city, San Francisco was once a great city, and now they're not. And what did they have in common? They had common partisan politics, and increased taxes, increased spending, and just irresponsible management. And I think it doesn't take a genius to fix those things. You just have to have a little bit of dedication, a little bit of willingness to hear people out, and to be willing to take criticism, to be willing to listen to other opinions, because we all make mistakes, we're all wrong sometimes, and getting to the right decision is sometimes a little bit more difficult than people imagine. And if we could just have people in politics who are committed to doing that, I think we could live in a better city and a better world in general.
Would that be better if the voters had more of an opportunity to talk at the alderman meetings?
Yeah, actually, yeah. Thanks for bringing that up, because I gave a short little thing at the alderman at one of the Board of Aldermen meetings. I think it was in June or July. And they have a very strict timeline. It's 3 minutes, and you cannot go over there. It's not like a soft 3 minutes where they give you actually an extra minute. and then they just politely ask you to finish up. And it's not like that. It's like boom, 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 30 seconds left,
cut
and
your
then
microphone.
get off. And I think that's kind of rude. It's maybe it wouldn't be so bad. But one, there's not really a lot of people that go and talk at the alderman meetings, so it's not like it's some huge time drain on them. And also, they will go on. They will just talk and talk and talk, like most of the city aldermen. They'll just talk about anything and everything that seemingly is pointless to the government
So
proceeding.
maybe they should have their own self-control.
Maybe they should have their own time limit. I just think it would be nice on the swearing thing that they were talking about. Oh my goodness, like if I understand that like sometimes kids get assigned this stuff, but I feel like that's just a way for them to shut people up a little bit earlier.
I think you're right.
And I don't want to see that. I just, when people are passionate, sometimes, sometimes things slip out. My friends back home, like they can't go, a full sentence without uttering a curse, and that's just who they are. So you don't want to restrict people, and you don't want to make it feel elitist in any way. And that's kind of what I feel like they are perhaps unconsciously doing.
How late are the meetings going to?
Man,
Is it 10 o'clock or is it earlier?
I think it's past 9. I know that my head was rolling, like trying to get out of there. I need to need to start coming to them in over the virtual format, because over the internet, because I just don't, being there in person is pretty draining. Well,
I think they get paid. I think they can stay a little later.
Yeah, well, it's just the people that are there. It's just discouraging people from staying. It's too long. It's too long.
You want to get the ideas out. You want to get the discussion full, and they should be cutting back some of their waste.
Yeah, I think so.
But Sean, I'm sorry, but we're out of time.
Oh,
so
no
now
problem.
we're going to look and wait for the election. We'll have you back when it gets closer to voting time.
Great.
And you can tell us some more of your experiences and how you would act if you are elected.
Well, thank you very much. I do appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much for coming.